Hola, hola, and bienvenidos, familia. Welcome back to Tech and Tequila. I'm your host, Kat Lopez Shelby, your techie chica. And this is the podcast where we break down tech, cybersecurity, and business growth in ways that actually make sense. Now, if you're new here, let me tell you why today's conversation is going to matter and why you should lean in. So I'm the founder of Shelby Technology Solutions, LLC, and I've spent years working alongside businesses of all sizes, founders, operators, oil and gas companies, healthcare clinics, retail owners, and sometimes government contractors, helping them modernize their tech, strengthen cybersecurity, and protect the businesses they've sacrificed so much to build. And let me tell you something, I've seen something over and over again. And that is most security incidents don't happen because someone didn't care. They happen because everyone assumed someone else had it handled. And by that, I mean, they assumed their IT had it covered. They assumed, or their staff assumes, the systems are just automatically secure. Vendors assume they're protected. And the truth is, no one knows there's a problem until guess what? There is one. And by then, it's expensive, it's chaotic, and unfortunately, sometimes it can be business ending. Today, I want to speak directly with businesses, particularly small and mid-sized business owners. You know, these are the people that are the builders, the risk takers, and the ones carrying payroll, customers, contracts, and of course, the reputation of their business all on their shoulder every single day. Because cybersecurity is no longer a tech problem. It's a business survival issue. So first and foremost, I want to start this by saying, this is the number that every single business owner, every single person in the C-level needs to know. And that is, in 2024, the average cost of a data breach reached, guess what? $4.88 million. Now, for an enterprise company, that might be painful. It could even mean that, let's say, some of those C-levels ended up, getting the axe, being able to, retire, things of that nature. But for a small and mid-sized business, that number can end the business, not slow growth, not reduce profit. I mean, end it. And most business owners have never, I don't want to say they've never been told that, but a lot of people, when I interact with them, they take their heads and they want to hide them in the sand and pretend like, it's not my issue. I have IT. I have an MSA. It's covered, But the truth is that this is going to affect them, and also the other thing is, you have to know what one of my customers always tells me is, I don't know what I don't know. And that's why I talk to you, because I don't want to take for granted that IT has it covered. I don't want to take for granted that my cyber insurance policy is perfectly covered. I don't want to take for granted that my vendors have everything covered. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to cover. And that is kind of where this conversation is going to start, because you're going to say, all right, the buck starts here, and we're going to talk about things that you can do, solutions, right? So first off, let's talk about the reason why cybersecurity is no longer, it's just an IT thing, right? It's more than that, because it's a financial risk, it's an operational risk, it's a legal risk. If you have lots of compliance, it can be a compliance risk, it can be a customer trust risk, and it can also be a brand reputation risk. So things that you want to think about: if your systems go down, can you operate? Like, you need to know, like, what does my run look like? What is my 0-day plan? If client data is exposed, do customers stay? Do you have a plan of action? Do you know what you're supposed to do? Do you know what the requirement is? And I say requirement. Do you know what the legal requirement is? Do you know what's the right thing to do for your customers? These are all things to think about. If ransomware locks your files down, well, first off, what is it going to take to get those files back? Do you have them, in a redundant fashion? Do you have them backed up somewhere? And let me tell you, as someone who has had a business that thought everything was going well and no one had tested their backups in 2 years, they did not have the backups ready. But even bigger, like one of the other things, I say bigger, but this is going to be something that, is going to come up. Can you invoice? Can you make payroll? Cybersecurity really is a business continuity issue. Like, it's resilience, it's leadership. And you do not need to become a cybersecurity specialist with all the, initials behind its name, with all the training. You simply need to ask better questions. And just kind of like the questions that we're asking right now, like, do you know what your run book is? Have you, we will say, have you played or pretended like, okay, everything happened. What do we do? Do all your employees know that? Those are simple questions that you can ask, right? So today I'm going to walk you through 8 questions that every business owner should be thinking about and why they matter more than you think. This one's going to seem kind of like, but when was the last time you had a real security assessment? You hear that? When was the last time you had a security assessment? Because guess what? Every business has vulnerabilities. Even your big enterprise clients have vulnerabilities. They have holes in their systems. Every business. And let's be honest, cyber criminals target smaller and medium-sized businesses because they know protections are often weaker and response times are slower. So what would a true cybersecurity or security assessment identify? Weak passwords, outdated systems, exposed data, misconfigured cloud tools, unnecessary access privileges. Hint, hint, this is where we talk about zero trust. Think of it like a health checkup. You don't want to skip your medical exams for 5 years and assume everything is fine. Although if you ask my husband, he's always going to tell you, I don't like to go to the doctor because they always find something wrong with me. I'm like, well, yeah, if you go every 5 years, of course, they're going to find something wrong with you. Let's be real. But, you don't want to do that. You don't want to wait until there's a huge glaring issue. You want to be proactive. Now, I want you to ask yourself, has anyone truly evaluated where our systems are exposed recently? Okay. Not, we installed antivirus, IT set it up years ago. And I want to point this one out because what always, I'm going to say slightly shocks me to a certain extent is I will go talk to a business and I'll say, okay, when was the last time your firewall was patched? And I'll get kind of like this blank stare, i.e. they don't know. They're like, we left that up to our outsourced IT department. So I'm like, okay, well, will you mind if I call your IT? Or my personal favorite answer I got recently was, well, when we moved into this office, the internet and everything was already set up. So we just stayed with the same thing and we stayed with the exact same firewall. Mind you, they'd been in that office 12 years. So in 12 years, not one time had they updated anything. You want to think, what would a current comprehensive review look like? Because you cannot protect what you cannot see. Okay, so here is question 2 if you're taking notes, right? And this one's going to be like, duh, but could your team recognize a fake email, right? So there are no more princes from Nigeria in these phishing attacks, right? That's like a back in the day thing. Some people may not even get the reference, let's be honest. But phishing is still the #1 entry point for cyber attacks. Today's phishing emails are so much more sophisticated than they used to. They can look like messages from you. They can look like payment requests from vendors, shipping notice, Microsoft alerts, banking notifications, and all it takes is one click. And I want to give you an example because I work with a large organization that's nonprofit. And legitimately, and this is an absolute testament to the training that they do with their volunteers that are like management level volunteers. And the reason I say that is because one of the management level volunteers recognized that they got a request that said Venmo or PayPal that came in theory from the president of the organization, and immediately notified them, was like, hey, this doesn't look legit. Can you verify this for me? And it wasn't. So if all it takes is one click, you want to ask yourself, if someone in my organization received an email that looked like it came from me, would they recognize it as fake? Like, what would their due diligence process be? And I mean, we've all heard of, let's say, the cybersecurity things where it's like, go buy the Apple iTunes gift cards or something of that nature, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle. And everybody knows when you send money via any of those, it's basically like you're sending at your own risk, right? Not to call anyone in particular out, because we're not doing that. We're just saying, that's how it is. So, and I want to make this clear. Employees do not click because they're careless. They click because these emails are extremely convincing. And you know what changes that? That's going to be training. So this is where how you train your employees, because let me tell you, so everybody can hear this. What is between the floor and the laptop, or the floor and the endpoint, which is your employee, is your first line of defense. So make sure that your employees are getting their training. With a side, I'll say, of doing some like simulated phishing attacks. Like, that's one of the best things to know. Like, would my employee fall for this? Is to simulate it. So you're in an environment where if they do click something that's wrong, it's not the end of the world, right? Everybody wants that free extra large t-shirt, so to speak. But I digress. So here's another thing. Who is watching your network after hours? So while some of you may run businesses that run 24 hours, 7 days a week, and someone is always there, some people run businesses that run 9 to 5. And guess what? Cyber criminals, they don't just work 9 to 5. In fact, they like to attack late nights, weekend, holidays, during emergencies. And why is that? Because they assume that no one is watching. So I want you to ask yourself, if someone tried to access our systems at 2 a.m., would anyone notice? If the answer is no, you're not alone, first and foremost, but that is another vulnerability that you have. Like, how would you be notified? What would trigger someone to let you know, hey, this looks like suspicious. This doesn't look like this should be happening. Okay. So here's another question. If someone clicks something dangerous, would you know? So let's think about that. Mistakes happen, right? But what matters is the detection speed. So let's say that phishing email, somebody clicked on it. How soon would you know that that is going on in your system, right? If a malicious link is clicked, do you know immediately, hours later, days later, or has this entity been sitting on your network for over a year? And I know in previous episodes of the podcast, we have talked about this. It is very common for things to sit on your network for months and months and months. And what they're waiting for is a busy time. They're waiting for you to land that large contract, that large thing, and then try to lock it up, then try to hit the system, right? So what you want to think is, how quickly would we know if a device was compromised? And in this case, think about this. Minutes matter. Attackers can move fast once inside your network. Speed can equal containment, and containment can equal survival. Now, let's talk about this one. And if you're a business in Texas, I highly recommend you go back to the episode where we talked about some of the laws that were passed. And that is, are you required to meet certain security standards? Which is kind of a convoluted question, because if you take credit cards, yes, there are standards that you want to keep, right? But many smaller businesses don't realize they have their own compliance obligations aside from, per se, the software that they're utilizing. A lot of times they think, oh, that's being taken care of by my, software or my credit card processing. But you want to think, if you accept credit cards, you handle healthcare data, obviously, if you work with government contracts, or if you store personal information, you're going to have additional regulatory requirements. And non-compliant can mean fines, lawsuits, lost contracts, and of course, reputation damage. Now, if you are in Texas, there's a law that they passed last year. And to be honest with you, right now, I can't think of the exact one, that if you meet a minimum standard, and it is a minimum, but look it up as an SMB, that it limits the the financial obligation and reputation that you're required to pay. So like I said, this only covers SMBs in Texas. There's another law in the state of California that covers SMBs as well. It's a little more stringent and there's a little more to it, but as long as you meet these standards, you have some protection. Now, I'm always going to recommend, whether you're small, medium, or of course, enterprise size, is look into cybersecurity insurance. And I say that for two reasons. One, because we all want to be insured. And two, because even if like at the end of the day, you decide not to move forward with the insurance, you're going to have a framework of here's the things that we recommend that you have set in place. So here we go. Here's another question that I want you to ask yourself. And that is, do you have a plan if something goes wrong, right? So I want you to imagine this. You walk in Monday morning, your systems are locked out, awful. You have something that can only be adjacent to the blue screen of death. There's a ransom note on the screen. You have no access to your files. Now, what do you do? Who do you call? Who communicates with your clients? And secondly, what do they communicate? Are you calling your legal representation? Do you know who to call per se? Police, FBI? Who are we getting in touch with? Can you restore from your backups? Do you negotiate? Does your cybersecurity insurance policy follow this? Do you know what is your run book? This is all things that are going to be in your run book, right? Also known as, the ultimate question, do you have a documented incident response plan? Because let me tell you, chaos is expensive and preparedness reduces damages. I know I was speaking a little bit earlier about a customer that I had that did have an incident, and they thought that they were covered. Now, they hadn't run the run book, but when the incident happened, they immediately went into, here's what we do. Now, they did discover that their backups hadn't been backed up for like a year and a half. I think it was a year and a half, 2 years. It was enough that they made some different decisions than necessarily I would have made. But, business continuity was affected with them. And it was something that they had to do because every moment that they were down, they were losing money. So that leads into the fact that chaos is expensive and obviously preparedness reduces damage. Now, we've talked about this a little bit already, but let's talk about the fact that you need to know what your cyber insurance policy actually covers. And any of you that are listening that are like, oh, I have business insurance that covers it. Okay, I'm not an insurance specialist, so I am not able to tell you that, but I would look and see what your actual coverage is and figure out what the requirements are. Because let me be very honest with you, we all know insurance companies don't want to pay out. So cyber insurance is tightening. They're like, didn't do that. You need to know, does your cyber insurance policy require you to have like a once a year pen test? Do they require you to have a vulnerability scan once a year? What are the requirements? And I'm going to tell you, a big part of the requirements for these policies is having proof that you've been doing what you're supposed to do. So claims get denied when, number one, required controls aren't in place. Outdated systems exist. Training wasn't documented. So ask yourself, does our company know what our policy truly covers? And are we meeting these requirements? Coverage without compliance is going to be false confidence. Because great, you have a cyber insurance policy. Wonderful. I'm super excited for you. But are you doing everything that requires? Now, We're going to take a break. And I know this is called Tech and Tequila, but today we're going to do a little tech and tastings. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm recording this at like 1:26. If I have any more coffee, I'm going to vibrate off this entire screen and the computer and everything. So, but I want to talk about something that I think is awesome. And that is Commenteer. If you haven't tried it, first off, let's lighten this up for a minute because we want to make things easy, right? And if you know me, you know that I love having something that's steady. Like, I don't know, somebody like myself, if I can't make coffee at home, I love my Dutch Bros. I love my protein coffee, right? I love that I know exactly how my tech is normally set it up. I love leadership things. Of course, love my tequila. We all know that. But one of the other things that I love is Commenteer and the ease of Commenteer coffee. Because for someone like myself, who, it is literally like trying to wake up, I would say the kraken in the morning because I'm not a morning person. It is so easy. And why is it easy? It's because it's flash frozen specialty coffee. You melt it, pour it, and it tastes like barista level every single time. So why do I love it? Why am I like, we're going to talk about Commenteer today. We're going to talk about café con leche instead of tequila. Consistency. No guessing. No thinking, did I measure that right? I can't find the little scoopy thing that's supposed to be in there. No, don't have to worry about it. Is the grind off? Am I having to clean something else? Awful. Sounds awful. It removes all the variables. And guess what? Too many businesses are brewing cybersecurity like a bad café con leche. You think IT handled it. You think your backups are running. You think your insurance is covered. Guess what? That's not protection. That's assumption. And assumption is expensive. So when you invest in assessments, monitoring, training, compliance reviews, you remove the guesswork, right? You replace them with I hope, with I know, right? So why do we love Commenteer? Because it takes the guesswork out. And it's going to be perfection every single time. Now, this would not be Tech and Tequila if we didn't take a moment to make a little bit of a comparison to the discussion we're having to some really good tequila, right? And while I'm not having tequila this afternoon at 1:30, we all know, I talk about it all the time. You don't shoot top shelf tequila without knowing what's in the glass, right? You want to read the label. You want to know the source. You want to know it doesn't have any of those yucky, naughty things, a bunch of additives. You want to know the process. You want to know premium tequila is crafted, measured, refined. And that is because just like your tequila, you want your business to be top shelf, right? So your cybersecurity should be too. No guessing, no hoping, no assuming, clarity, process, and confidence. So just like a great cup of coffee, aka Commenteer, which by the way, I'm an iced coffee girl. So I would say come at me, but don't. And I love tequila almost at all hours of the day sometimes. Just depends on the day, but just like a great tequila. So I've given you several questions to think about to protect yourself. I think I may have given you one, 2 or 3 times actually. It's said in different ways, but I want you to take away from this conversation. Number one, you don't have to sit in paranoia, right? Because you want your cybersecurity policy, you want its protection, or I say policy, framework, your cybersecurity, whatever you utilize to protect yourself, right? Because it protects you, it protects your customers, your employees, your contracts, your revenue, and your feature. Now, this week, we focused, of course, on 8 questions to ask. I think there was a couple more in there, but there's actually 8 main questions. So what I would recommend is pick one, because you don't have to climb, Mount Everest overnight. You want to start small, climb that hill, walk up that, that hill there. Nobody does I think it's the Santa Camilla Trail overnight. You do it in sprints. So start with one question. Ask it. Ask it in your leadership meeting. Ask it with your team. Call your IT person and say, hey, I kind of want to make sure, is this covered? Or you know what? pull out your cybersecurity policy, pull out your insurance policy, find out what is covered. And if you're in the state of Texas, look at that law I talked about. You want to replace assumption with certainty because your systems, you want them to be secure. You want to be focused on what you do best, right? Whether that's growing, leading, innovating, serving. So you know what, familia? I hate to bring it down, but that can actually be kind of your digital bliss. That can be your relaxation. That can be you're not ending the night getting an alcoholic or adult beverage because you're like, my tech is making me crazy. Everything's making me nuts. You are savoring it. You are savoring it. And that is very much the Tech and Tequila way. So until next time, of course, stay smart, stay protected, and keep everything you built top shelf. Now, before I forget, because I get in trouble for not doing this, if you like this episode, you like these questions, you thought, you know what, I need to share this with someone. Hey, always remember, subscribe, share, and follow us on all our social medias. You can find it. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.